Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stassi. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to have this as my first ever episode of, uh, oh my gosh, since the name has just escaped me, Real Life with Stassi J. I am so excited to be doing this series along with the Simmer Spotlights and the roundtables, but these will be sprinkled in, and I am so excited to have Nardvillian here today, and we're going to talk about sobriety. So thank you so much for coming here today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being on your show again. I love it.
I'm so excited. So for anybody, this is actually our third podcast together, but no one would actually know that by my posting schedule.
No, no. I won't be surprised if this airs before any of the other episodes that I'm in airs.
Oh, it is.
First. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
I know, because yours, it's actually so funny because I'm pretty sure how the posting schedule works is this is coming out Sunday, and then our actual Simmer Spotlight comes out on Wednesday.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm
That's
actually looking forward to
crazy.
that. That's super cool though.
That I was actually so nervous to interview you, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Just
I
little
don't
old
know.
me.
Because you're just so cool. And I'm just like
Nah.
a hot mess on a good day.
Nah, you're the cool one. I mean, you're the cool one.
You're
I admire your storytelling and everything. It's in
oh.
your podcast too. It's great.
Oh, well, thanks, Nardville, and you're so sweet. Well, why don't we get this start off for anyone who's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
any for my new listeners, welcome. For anyone who's never heard a podcast, welcome. Nardville, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, my real name is Jannard, and the reason why I go by Nardvillian is because I wanted to kind of separate my personal content that I do just for like my client work and stuff, and then just kind of like switch that over to something that I can do gaming with, or just anything that's outside of like my professional work, which is photography and videography. So I went with Nardvillian just to be able to give that separation from personal work to my hobby work or whatnot. So I do a lot of photography work. I do a lot of content creating and stuff like that. Most people know the Nardvillian as Sims 4 content. I'm always creating content based around, storytelling or tips and tricks. Sometimes I do like these little build challenges and stuff like that. And then when I'm not playing The Sims 4, obviously I'm doing photography work, video work, and hanging out with my fiance, soon to be wife in November if I can make sure I don't ruin anything by then. But and then when I'm not doing that, I like to go out and eat. And it used to be go out and grab beers and cocktails because the city that I'm in is very, very big in the culture when it comes to food and
Mhm.
beverages. The city I'm in is San Diego. Hopefully, y'all don't dox me because I just told you I'm in San Diego. And I think San Diego has a huge beer culture.
Mhm.
'Cause before I moved out here, it was definitely, I didn't know that it was going to be a huge beer culture. I mean, I was drinking Bud Lights, that was it for me, Bud Lights and Coors Lights. So, but anyway, that's my story. Photographer, videographer, and Sims 4 content creator.
See, you're definitely the cool one in this relationship. Like I Well, I want to congratulate you. Obviously this podcast is about sobriety, and
Mhm.
as of this podcast being filmed, you're 11 months sober. That is
Yes.
absolutely phenomenal. I want to hear your journey from start to finish to where you started 11 months ago to where you feel
Woo.
today.
Well, I don't know. I think what I had to do was I had to question myself and ask myself, like, what is my relationship with alcohol? Like, at
Mhm.
one point, it was just, a social thing, maybe a coping thing, like going out with friends, having drinks, or if I had that bad day, why not? Sure, why not? Let's just have, a couple glasses of wine or whatever, just to wind down or just to get that stressful feeling out of my system. And
Mhm.
then at one point, it started to be like, man, do I really need to go out and have this drink? Or do I, you know, do I really need to just drink when I'm in a bad mood? Like I just feel like that's just not healthy for me. And
Mhm.
then it turned into like feeling bad for drinking. Like I'll be out and I'll be having a drink or two, and I'll be like, man, maybe I shouldn't have the third one. That's when
Mhm.
I realized maybe I should just take a break. I've done this before. I've done it, 6 or almost 7 years ago. I did like this little 30 day no alcohol challenge, and I honestly liked the way it made me feel. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should do it again, because I felt like my relationship with alcohol was Not necessarily. I don't want to say that I was addicted to alcohol where like it impacted the way I lived, like, I
Mhm.
can't live without it or I wake up wanting to drink. It was more like I was maybe abusing it. Like maybe I was just, drinking for no reason, like maybe drinking daily, drinking over the required because you can drink like maybe a glass or two daily and be considered like a normal casual drinker versus
Mhm.
like drinking 4 to 5 glasses of alcohol a day could be a little bit more on the abusive side, so I was just thinking, now that I'm thinking about drinking and how and I'm feeling bad about drinking, maybe I should just give it a break, and maybe it'll help me physically and mentally.
Mhm.
So the weekend of Memorial Day, I was just like here in the States in US, back in I guess that was June. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go. I was actually in Florida,
Mhm.
America, and I was like, this will be my last weekend that I'll just drink and I'll just, try to, do a cleanse, a little detox, just so that way I can kind of get back, just have a reset, have a reset, just so that way I can just be able to whenever I do decide I want to drink again, it's not like every day. I'm not thinking about wanting to drink, or I'm not making. And when I am drinking, I don't feel bad about drinking because again, where I'm from, it's just a culture. There's so many breweries here in town. There's over a
Mhm.
hundred breweries, so it's just kind of like a thing to do. It's like let's go out and just go to different breweries and try it out. So I wanted to get back into that, but I wanted to have a reset where I didn't have to just come home and habit of just drinking every day. So that was like the
Mhm.
initial start to it. And then of course I said I'm gonna do the 30-day detox. And during that 30-day detox, I immediately just noticed the perks. And from there I was like, you know what, maybe I'll give it 60 days.
Mhm.
So and then from there, here we are, like 11 months in, and that's just that was the start, just realizing what my relationship was, and the fact that I was starting to feel a little bad about drinking kind of pinpointed my start to my sobriety.
Well, thank you so much for sharing and
Mhm.
congratulations. It is a
Thank you.
big feat to cut alcohol away from your life. I think it's fascinating. And you kind of really brought up a good point that like going out to eat, we usually associate like the first thing people ask us when we go to eat is what would you like to drink?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not talking about water and they're not talking about pop. They are talking
Right.
about alcohol. They're talking about, well, do you want a beer? Do you want a glass of wine? And then I think it's just become so normal in a society that like let's have
Hmm.
that beer. Let's
Yeah.
have that wine. And it because like to be honest with you, in my personal opinion, I think beer tastes like dragon piss. Like it
Woo!
just,
I love me some dragon piss then.
oh, I just, I've never been a beer person. I would say I'm more of a cider if I had to choose, but I'm liquor. I'm a liquor
Hmm.
girl
Oh
through and
yeah,
through.
me
And that
too.
is it's very dangerous because there's a difference between something that's 60% and something that's like 7%.
Hmm. Yep.
But I think it's fascinating that you're right. Like you just go out places, you're like, it's oh, I'll go have a beer. And like, oh, the next thing I know, the person's like, well, do you want another one? And because you're having
Hmm.
such a great time, the first
Yep.
one, the rule of thumb of sobriety is usually the first one tastes good, but the second one tastes better.
Hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, I'll have a second one. And now you're whacked up $20 in alcohol. $20, you're looking at a $40 meal. And you're like, well, do you want a third one? You're like, fuck it. Let's go. Let's have a third one.
Right.
We're here for a while, right? Like
Hmm.
let's
Now you. Yep.
now you're three in, and
Hmm.
depending on your alcohol tolerance, you could be tipsy at that
Hmm.
point. And now you're like, okay, well, now I have to wait it off because I can't drive. And then you're there a little bit longer. And then you're realizing you're like, this turned into like a 6 hour evening, which can be fine. But, or like birthday parties, it's like, let's go to
Hmm.
the bar. Let's go, like,
Yep.
let's go blackout wasted. I think the thing is because when we're in college, it's so much fun to drink. I think because it's the first
Yep.
time that we're making friends, and that's how we do like that's how they do things. And like when you're like 2021, you're like, let's
Hmm.
go to the bar, let's go to the after party, let's
Yep.
just drink until we fucking fall over. But what kids don't realize is hangovers get worse as our bodies grow because it's poison. We are literally poisoning our body. The reaction that we are having is poisoning our body. And our body is saying, no, thank you. You've done it too much. But we just continue to do it. Because everybody has had a hangover being like, I'm never doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
But then we forget. And we're like,
Yep.
oh, well, it won't be as bad this time, or I'll drink more water this time. And I think it's fascinating to be honest with you. So if I may share, I'd like to share my sobriety story,
Absolutely.
which is a little different. It wasn't alcohol, it was drugs.
Mm.
So I was in child rehab before I was 18 years old, for an eating disorder, substances, and alcohol. I was gonna die. I did a lot of bad things because I wanted to be skinny and I wanted to be popular. And that is what both you had. That's what you did. My parents said, you're gonna die. So they carted me off to rehab. And then the day I turned 18, I got out. And they basically said, you're welcome to stay, but you have to pay because you're no longer a child, you're an adult, or you go out in the real world. So for 5 years, I didn't touch any drugs. It wasn't until I started like lightly smoking marijuana, and that was lately because I was very cautious because that was the first drug I ever tried. That was actually something me and my first ever boyfriend, actually something that we really bonded over. Like we started smoking joints when we were 13 years old. It was something that we were like, oh, we're both druggies. Haha. Druggies, let's, party together, stay together kind of idea. And I was like, I can, you know what? Like I can reintroduce marijuana into my back into my system because it's not as bad as alcohol. It's fine. No, my body's like, like you taught us that this is bad.
Mm.
Don't do this. And so, but I can have the occasional drink now and not feel like I need to drink the bottle. I was 24. I was in a really bad job. The job I previously had, which was terrible, this other job, it had to be the worst job. The owner was the most disgusting man you would ever meet in your life. Like he shouldn't even be classified as a man. He's a
Mm.
fucking lizard. And like me and my girlfriend have both gone to trauma counseling over this man, how much trauma he's
Jeez.
provided both me and her. Here's a great example. So I had a miscarriage there. And well, not at work. I was at work and then I was like, I have to go because something's wrong. He told everybody that I deserved it.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know how fucked up that is? So, anyways, during that time, I used to drink whiskey straight from the bottle every night because it was the only coping mechanism I had. Because I was so scared if I even just did one puff of a weedy puff stick that it would throw me in. I would just
Mm-hmm.
be back to where I was. And then I got out of that job and then I've just like, I'd be the occasional drinker. And I haven't done weed and like, cause like I say I've been California sober for 12 years, which is not even real sober. That is still drinking and smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
100% sober, but like I haven't had an alcoholic beverage in 3 weeks because I had to figure out the last time I had one. And it'll be 6 years since I've done some form of marijuana. And people here treat it like I'm insane when I don't like when I go to a party and I don't like go out and smoke with them.
Mm-hmm.
And my fiance is really good at it, but like, and everyone's really good at it, but like, but you like, they're like, you don't smoke or like, you don't, and I'm like, no, I'm good. Sorry, drugs are just not my thing anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, anymore. And I'm like, you heard that. We're just gonna leave it there. Or I'll have like one or two drinks and I'll think I'm a wizard at this point because my body is just like, do not do this to us. And it's fascinating for the girls side of it. So when girls decide to stop drinking, you know what the first question we get asked is?
What's that?
Are we pregnant?
Wow.
That's the first question. So if I go to my parents' house, because I've now made a promise to myself, I will not drink at my parents'. Not that like anything bad's happened, but I don't condone behavior that's presented there. So I won't drink. And they're like, oh, like have a bottle of champagne with me. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm just not drinking right now. So I've actually just said like, oh, I'm like just having really bad period cramps. I'm just taking a lot of Advil.
And it sucks that you have to make up an excuse and you just can't say I'm just don't want to drink. You know,
I
it's
just
got to
don't, I
be
just,
a reason for it.
right? Like I just don't want to drink. And I think that's so weird because a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their mind around it. Like you
Yeah.
don't drink
hmm
anymore. You don't do drugs anymore. Have you had that experience as well of just people being confused by it or happy for you?
Kind of a combination of both. Especially when I'm out, like I sometimes like I said, just like you, I feel like I have to be like, oh, you know, I don't even tell them I just don't drink or
Mm-hmm.
I'm on this sobriety journey. I just say, oh, I'm doing. Sometimes we call it like the dry January, even though
Yeah.
I was already 6 months in. I was just like, oh, I'm just doing the dry January, or oh, at one point I was saying, oh, I'm just on this medication and I just don't want to drink on it or whatever. And then usually I'm just detoxing right now. And sometimes I'll be honest. I'll be like, yeah, I decided to do a 30-day no alcohol. It just depends on who it is. And if I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I want to explain it. Cause I'm not preachy about it. I'm just more about like, you know, this, I do it because I just feel better not drinking, you know. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
waste a whole day because of decisions I made the night before, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have to kind of make up a story every once in a while, but for the most part now, especially my close friends, they're more supportive now, or they are supportive, and
Mm-hmm.
they still invite me out. You know, I'm very comfortable going to a bar and hanging out with people, knowing like you know they're gonna drink and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't bother me. Now the first month or so, it might have been a little bit more of a transitional phase for me, but now as I'm already 11 months in, I can
Mm-hmm.
basically do anything now and not be weird about it just because I'm not drinking. So,
I think that I could not agree more. And I have to
hmm
ask you this other question. If you go out
hmm
with people and everybody else is drinking and you are staying sober, how do you like how do you feel? Like are you feel like you're having just as much fun? Or do you feel like everyone else is having so much more fun around you because they think they're having more fun than you?
I'm always in myself, into my like I'm always like in myself thinking about what others are probably thinking. So I
Mhm.
try to the first month or two was very hard. Like I mean, there was
Mhm.
times where I would be at a brewery and
Mhm.
there's nothing but water. So I had to like train myself or tell people like hey, let's go out, but let's go to a brewery that also has food or something for me to be
Yeah.
doing that's not just sitting here watching you guys drink. Um, so it was, I would say the first couple week or months were very hard to transition into a night where I'm hanging out with a lot of people and
Mhm.
they're all drinking. Now it's a little bit different. Now it's kind of like I'm worried that they might think they're the weird ones and not me because I'm not
Mhm.
the one drinking. Because so sometimes I have to think about that too. Like if I'm out with like a buddy and he's hanging out, he's drinking and having a couple, or we're eating and he's having a couple of drinks, or
Mhm.
maybe it's just him drinking and I'm just having a non-alcoholic beverage.
Mhm.
I try to just let them know like beforehand. It's like, hey man, let's go out, have a couple of drinks. Don't mind me. I'm not drinking right now, but I can still go out and have a great time. The only thing for me that makes it harder is staying out longer than what I would have stayed out if I was drinking.
Yeah.
Normally now I'm like ready to go after an hour of just hanging out. Now,
Mhm.
if I was drinking with them, I could stay out all night, but now it's kind of a little bit different in that retrospect too.
I could not agree more. And I was going to bring up the point of like being a sober person and
hmm
a crowd of people that are not sober. I think time slows down like 80%
Oh my God,
because
yes.
everybody is having because they're on a different wavelength. They're on a different
hmm
planet in my opinion
hmm
because the alcohol is hitting them at different speeds and different levels, right?
Right.
So you're just sitting there like they're like, oh, guys, remember that
hmm
thing in high school? They're like, oh my
Yeah.
god, I do. And you like outside, you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And
Yep.
then they're like, you're not on our level. And I'm like, you are right, my friend. I am not on
hmm
your level. I have no idea how you're feeling. Or they're like, yeah, bro, blah, blah, blah. And
hmm
because they're just again, and I think it's something is fascinating that you said that like if like hang out with a buddy, and especially in the beginning, you're like, yeah, like we can go out, but like I'm
hmm
not drinking. Like
Yeah.
I think that's I think that's like it's good to let people know, but at the same time, it's a little sad as a society that we have to like indicate like we're
Yeah.
still fun and like we can
Hmm.
still go places,
Yeah.
but I'm just not gonna have a beer.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna partake in weed just because, like, for an example, so here in Canada, it's legal. You can walk down
Hmm.
the street with a joint in your hand and smoke it, and nothing bad's gonna happen to you. I know places in the States are not like that, and definitely places in the
Yeah.
UK are not like that. So it's you can just like walk through a smoking pit. There's actually no cigarettes anymore. It's vaping and it's weed. Like that's the
Oof.
two
Yeah.
things in smoking pits. It's so weird. But like I it was New Year's Eve. I shouldn't have been drinking, but I wanted to have I felt uncomfortable. Like I felt like I needed a drink
Hmm.
because everyone was drinking around me and everyone was just like we played we played a game, like a party board game. It was like the bridesmaids, girls, Cards Against Humanity. And every single question was like, have you ever gone to the hospital because you drank too much? And I was like, yes. And
Hmm.
they're like, what? And then the next question is like, so like, when was the last time you puked? And I was like, the day before I got my appendix out. And they're like, what? And
Hmm.
then the girl next to me, I don't even remember her name. She looked like a Kardashian. And she said to me, she's like, it's so big of you that you can sit next to somebody drinking. And it didn't even clue in to like what I like. I'm glad that she was applauding me,
Hmm.
but you don't know me. You don't,
Right.
you have no idea. Thank you for acknowledging that. But I wouldn't just like go to someone not eating meat being right now, like, I acknowledge you for sitting here whilst I eat a burger. I acknowledge you for like good
Yeah.
for you. It's
Right.
weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
why is it so weird to just say I don't want to drink? Because like, as soon as I'm like, oh, I think I'm pregnant, they're like, oh my God, you can't drink. You can't even think about it. You're not, if you're trying for a baby, it's recommended that you don't drink for 6 months beforehand,
Oh, wow. Just so
right?
that the baby doesn't have any like,
Yeah, so like
yeah.
not that you're going on like a bender, and I mean nothing will
Right.
happen to the baby. I mean, the chances of it like is like slim to
Yeah.
none, but it's just like for the healthy, proper body, don't
Hmm.
drink 6 months before. So when we first started trying for kids, I'd be like, I'm like, we're actively trying. I'm trying everything under the sun. Not drinking because that's going to improve our chances. Holy shit! I would be like, I'm not drinking right now. They're like, why? Are you finally like pregnant? And I'm like, no, I'm just trying, but I don't want it. They're like, oh, but like a glass of wine's not going to hurt you. A
Yeah. See,
beer
they're
is not
still
going to hurt you.
pressuring you.
It's
Yeah.
still
See, it's so
pressure, but they don't
crazy. Yeah.
realize that they're pressuring. But why?
Yeah.
If I just say no,
Yeah.
here's an example for everyone listening. Hi, I do heroin. No, thank you, sir. I don't want to do heroin. No one would ever say, but are you sure? Because heroin's
Yeah.
just so great. It's the same type of
It is.
it's the
Yeah.
same. But we it's just because you're able to go buy it in a can for three
Hmm.
dollars, we don't associate it being addicting. I
Right.
just find that always so weird. Have you how about you? Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah. Not as much recently, but maybe when I was maybe in my earlier 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as cool anymore. So, I mean, all my friends are kind of older and I don't really get out as much
Mm-hmm.
because I work about 16 hours a day. So it's like, but when I do go out, there was one time I was pressured for what is it called? It's bachelor party. I went to a bachelor party
Yeah.
sober,
Yep.
and this is a great story. And this is a great answer to your question. This is the only time out of 11 months I was pressured like it was nothing was at a bachelor party when I was with my buddy and
Mm-hmm.
he knew the circumstances and he was like, hey, I know you're not drinking, but I'd love to have you come to our bachelor party. We're gonna we're gonna bar crawl, do a
Yeah.
pub crawl. I was like, sure. Every bar is gonna have food, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have non-alcoholic beverages, plenty of eye
Yeah.
candy and things to do, places to dance or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
distracted from the cravings of wanting to drink alcohol. And one of the guy's buddies who was at the bachelor party was like, he was obviously tipsy. And he was like, just one shot, bro. It's like, our best friend, our buddy's getting married. You're not even gonna just have at least a shot with me. Just take one shot. I understand that he was probably a little tipsy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of offended. Like that
Yeah.
rubbed me the wrong way. Like I was like, bro, I just said I wasn't gonna drink. Like, what are we? like what are we, 20 years old?
Yeah, like
Like
what are you,
you
like
trying to peer
17? Are you
pressure?
peer pressuring me?
Yeah.
Like get the fuck
Yeah,
out
like
of here.
what are you gonna get out of me taking a shot with you? And you probably won't even remember the next day that you forced me to take a shot. So I
Hmm.
kept my cool. and I was like, nah, good, nah, bro, I'm good. He's like, nah, I'm gonna just order you a shot. Just take one little shot. And so eventually I just walked away. I don't know how I got out of that situation. I think I might have been like, he might have got distracted. And I was like, nah, dude, bro, I'm good. Trust me, I'm good. Plus I drove. I haven't been drinking for six,
Yeah.
7 months at this point. I don't know how that shot's gonna do to me. And because I drove, I just don't want to be trying to drink and drive. And I'm cool, bro. I'm cool. Like, I don't really need a drink.
Hmm.
So that's how I got out of that. I was just like, I just kept saying no. And even if he kept pressuring me, I would have just walked away. Like I
Yeah.
was getting annoyed, but because of the circumstances and because I was with his friends or whatever, I kept my southern rough country boy wanting to fight at a bar. I kept him still, back in
Hmm.
the college days. If I was in college and I was sober and he was forcing me, it would have been a different story. But
Yeah.
I've matured. This
Well,
super villain has matured in his don't start a bar fight way. So
definitely don't ever start a bar fight because like
no,
nobody wins because you go to
yeah.
jail and then you have to pay for the damages and then it's
And
just
I'm
like
with
it's
his
not even a cool
friends.
story. It is, yeah, it's a bachelor
Yeah,
party. It's his
bachelor
friends.
party with his friends. Yeah, and
Yeah,
and again, like I said, it didn't lead to that, but I was getting a little
it's getting
annoyed. Just
frustrating
I was getting frustrated.
because
But yeah, that was the only time.
like if you say no, and the thing I think that always bothers me, and this is in like real life as well. If you like, no, I do not want this, but then the person's like, but are you sure? And I'm
Hmm.
like, yes, I'm 100% positive. Thank you for reconfirming, but no, I'm good. And they're like, yeah, but don't you want it? And you're like,
Right.
no. I've now said no 3 times to you in a minute.
Hmm.
My answer has not changed, and it's not going to change in the next 30
Hmm.
seconds. So can we please move on to another conversation? How are you? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. It's the same with food too. Like sometimes you're
Yeah.
trying to limit you might have some dietary restrictions and you don't want to,
Hmm.
get too crazy with sweets or whatever it may be. And again, it's the same thing. It's like, look, we got all these cookies. You don't want to have at least one, or it ain't gonna
Yeah.
kill your diet or your whatever. I'm like no,
Hmm.
I don't want it. I
Oh my.
still, again, I want to feel good the next day.
Yeah. So I could not agree more. So I did keto, like strict keto
Woo!
from
I cannot do keto.
January, so from July to August of last year, because we were doing an
Oh
engagement
my
shoot. So I had to lose all
gosh.
the. I lost like 15 pounds of keto weight or COVID weight. I was
Mhm.
strict, 20 net carbs a day, and that
Woo!
was during my birthday. We
Oh
had
my
keto
gosh.
cupcake. I would measure it down by the like, I like down to the inch. So
Yeah.
like, so if I was having a craving, I would cut a gummy bear into an eighth, and I would eat
Mm.
it just because I was like, I need the sugar.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would say I wish I could go back and tell you of when I got sober back when I was 18 and like in rehab of like how I felt going through and how stressful my body felt going through that. I
Mhm.
don't remember. I've blocked a lot of it out, but I would associate it from when I cut sugar out of my diet. It's the
Mhm.
same sensation as cutting out alcohol or drugs. You go through withdrawal. I was
Mhm.
sweating. I was starving. There would just be points where I was just like, I have to eat. Like I would eat something. So when I had an eating disorder, so I had pica. For anyone who doesn't know what pica is when you eat objects that are not food because you're so physically hungry that your teeth need the sensation of eating something. So I used to eat tissues, which is
Mm.
gross and weird to think about. But I used to eat box of tissues all the time. That wouldn't even come.
What was your
So
brand?
Kleenex.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I would just eat them, and I did that when I was in rehab too.
Mm.
And it was when we moved out of my childhood home. Like I was like 20 at that point. It had been like 2 years since I've eaten a box of tissues, and that my parents found my wad because I couldn't always digest them, right? So I'd like chew them
Mhm.
like gum and like
Yeah.
stick them places and then go back and chew it later. And
That's
they're like, what the fuck is that? It's like tissues. I was like, pica. So anytime like I see like my strange addiction, it's just another form of an eating disorder. It's just pica.
Mhm.
Um, when I was in rehab, like we couldn't have paint because a girl, that was her thing. She drank paint.
Mhm.
It's really sad. But anyways, it was like the same sensation. Like I could have eaten a box of tissues. Or sometimes when I get into a stressful situation, I was like, man, I really wish I could do a line.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only had one instance in my 20s that I almost did some hardcore drugs. It was my 23rd birthday. I was newly single out of a very toxic relationship, and everybody was like, let's date Jen. I want to date Jen. No matter who, like my high school friends that I've known for years that would literally call me Hill because they were just, that's how close we were.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, yo, Hill, come here. And if anyone Hill, it's my last name. Everybody was trying to swing their shot. And I was like, I don't know, thank you. I'm really good, but I just want to have fun. So they threw me this like
Mm-hmm.
giant birthday party. Welcome me back to the friend group because basically my ex didn't let me talk to my friends.
Mm.
And I went,
Jeez.
and it was MG. For anyone who knows real life, is we're just gonna call him MG for this podcast. Like we were just like the will they or won't they in high school, the football captain with the cheerleader, and we were friends, and then we weren't friends, and he did a lot of bad things, and then he did a lot of self-discovery and became a better person, and we kind of thought the cards had finally aligned. So he threw me this big birthday party, and what does he bring? Bag full of drugs. And he's like, I know this is what you like. And I'm like, I haven't done this in a long time, and this is not who I am anymore. He's like, oh, come on,
Mm-hmm.
where's that old Jenny with an I? Where is she? She's so much fun. I'm like, she's gone. Jenny with an I is gone. Jen is here, and Jen is responsible for my life choices. And I got away.
Mm-hmm.
I walked out and left.
Yeah.
I left my own birthday party because I was
And
like, I
then
don't. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then what? Say you did do that. I wonder how that person's conscience would feel knowing, like,
Yeah.
wow, I got someone to do drugs that hasn't done drugs in like X amount of years. I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like what makes that? What makes? I just feel like
What?
what character would do that? You know, like
I agree, and
crazy.
that was the only moment in my 20s. And there was a couple times throughout the pandemic I was like, oh my god,
Oh man.
something, a coping
Hmm.
mechanism,
Yeah.
right? Because that's all that is. It's like, oh, it's gonna make me feel better. Guys, it doesn't
Hmm.
make you feel better. It actually makes you feel worse after you do it, because
It's
you're
true.
so disappointed in yourself of just, why did I do that?
It's
Why did
true. Like.
why? Because in your brain it's like, well, like I thought it would make I thought it would solve everything. It's kind of like, this is the theory of marriage, which we'll talk about in a later podcast.
Hmm. Hmm.
People that are in maybe toxic relationships think, well, if I got married it'll fix it. And then they got married, and it
Hmm.
didn't fix it. And then
Well,
they're like,
let's have a
no,
baby.
let's have a baby. A
Yeah. Let's
baby
see if
will
that
fix
works.
everything. Yeah, and it
Hmm.
doesn't. And then you're so confused, and now you hate each other, and you have this starving baby, and then there's like, you're just like, you're so unhappy. Happiness comes within you, and you have to. And there is a saying, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. I know that's like the cheesiest saying that's on like fucking every
True.
like 16-year-old sharp. It's true. It is so true. You cannot love somebody else if you don't love yourself. And self-love is very hard to find, especially in date like now, when social media is out there and you see these beautiful Instagram models covered in filters and fillers, and you're just like, how come I can't look like that? And you look at reality TV shows, everyone's supermodels. Why can't I look like that? Why can't I find love? Why can't I buy a house? Why can my best friend why is my best friend getting married this year, and I can't even keep a boyfriend or a steady job? Like, it's so hard to find self-love. But if any advice I could give to somebody listening to this is, look in the mirror every day and say one good thing about yourself, one
Yep.
self-affirmation. It could be, I had the opportunity to drink last night and I said no, and I'm proud that I did that. Or I look great, I'm having a great fucking hair day. Or I look in the mirror like, I'm fucking awesome and the world is going to be ready for me today. It's just kind of something like
Hmm.
that. What advice would you give to somebody who maybe needs some self-love help?
Honestly, I would say again to look yourself in the mirror too, and just give yourself some gratitude. Let them know. Because everybody's trying. We all every day. Every day's not perfect, and I feel like we all have our demons, our issues,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the easiest way, not the easiest way, but I think just like going, realizing what's bothering you and try to figure out how to control it. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're intoxicated with the substance, it's hard to attack those emotions straight on. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why I sometimes would go to alcohol, because I had was avoiding situations, I guess. And now that when these situations come up, I can really realize like, wow, like this has probably been bothering me for years, and now I can kind of digest it and take a look at it within and just be like, okay, how can I change this feeling now? Instead of going to
Mhm.
the bottle or going to an addiction, how can I just face it straight on, either accept it or change it? And how can I feel better? How can I feel better about myself? How can I show myself that I'm like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm still, my
Mhm.
therapist tell me this every day. I need to give myself gratitude too. And it's true. Like if you can wake up every morning and just stare in the mirror and just like you said, just give yourself
Mhm.
one good reason or just one good thing of gratitude that's just good and positive, it will set your day. Like if you just go into the mirror and say, hey, like, wow, I get to wake up today
Mhm.
and create content to better someone else's vision, or I get to create content that's going to make 5 people happy,
Mhm.
that I popped up on their feed and made them laugh. Um, or you know what? Like just in general, like I'm a good person, or I'm doing good, like I'm really out here making an impact on society, or I've lost weight, I look great,
Mhm.
I should tell myself that instead of giving myself a hard time about the 3 pounds I might have gained because of maybe some poor choices or lack of sleep or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I would do, or say, I think, to someone is to acknowledge that, give yourself some gratitude, try to show yourself some self-love, because that will go a long way. Because if you're going around here hating yourself, like how can you show love to someone else when you're not even happy with yourself, like and I'm working on that too. Like I'm working on trying to love myself more so that I can continue to show love to my relationships and to
Mhm.
people around me. Because if you don't even like yourself or love yourself, that's going to rub off on everybody else too. So
Mhm.
I think that's a good way to look at it as well.
I
So
I think that's really good advice, and you touched on something that like you speak to a therapist. I think
mhm,
therapy is very important, especially if you want to
absolutely.
get sober. If you have a therapist, talk to your therapist about it. Talk
Hmm.
to anybody. Being sober is not a solo journey. Okay,
Hmm.
a lot
That's
of
true.
people think it is a solo journey. It is not. You need friends and family and a support system. I know Alcoholics Anonymous gets like every just go to AA. It actually does really help you. I know a lot of friends who relapsed went to AA after, and honestly, relapses happen.
Hmm.
It happens. You have a bad day, you relapse, and it doesn't mean that you're less of a human. It doesn't mean you're less of a person. You just made a poor judgment decision. That doesn't mean that AA is not going to be there to support you. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friend, your boss,
Yeah.
anybody, your therapist. Like there are so many people out there. There are so many programs that can help you get sober. It's not, and like for an example, like you could be able to cut off alcohol. You could say tomorrow, I'm not going to drink for the rest of my life. That's awesome. I hope you're able to do that. But some people you need to wean yourself off it. You can't
Hmm.
just go from
It's
drinking
true.
a bottle of whiskey a day to not drinking it. You're going to
Hmm.
go through withdrawal. So it takes 21 days to break a habit. So it can take
Yep, I heard
21
that.
days to finally get the alcohol out of your system. So if you partake in marijuana can live in your system for up to 30 days. So it's always, even if you haven't smoked a joint in 29 days, it's still in your system. So think about that as well. If just like it's going to take a minute to get the alcohol out of your system, it's going to take a minute, and you're going to feel like garbage. And
Oh
everything
yeah.
in your body is going to tell you, well, just go and do it. You're going to feel so much better. Just go do it. But fight the urge after 21 days, and you will feel so much better.
Yep.
But don't do it alone. Talk to anybody. I'm going to put links below for both the US and Canada for Alcoholic Anonymous, and as well of just good free resources and good other podcasts as well that to listen to if you want to start your sober journey. I really do hope that if you listen to this podcast and you're considering maybe even just cutting back on alcohol or cutting back on your drug intake,
Hmm.
it's going to save you.
Yeah.
It's going to save your life. That like, and I think that's the thing that we kind of forget, that like when we're in our 20s, we think we're invincible. And then as soon as you get into your 30s, everything hurts. And then when
Hmm.
you get into your 40s, you're like, holy shit, I'm halfway to 80. What have I done?
Yep.
Right?
And you're halfway done with your life too. Some people don't even make it to 80.
Yeah, exactly. So
Scary.
it is scary. So just at that point, just know in your sobriety journey, it's never an alone journey. There's multiple ways to help you. And the first step, and I think this is the most important thing when it comes to sobriety, because I know somebody in my real life, and I'm not going to name names, and they have been in and out of rehab for the past like couple years. Like we're not like close at all. And I wasn't surprised by it because they didn't want it. They didn't choose it. They didn't choose to be sober. Somebody else chose it for them. And
Hmm.
you can't let somebody else choose your sobriety. You have to choose your sobriety. You have to wake up and say, I want to do this for me. Because if you don't do though, if you don't have that phrase, you're not going to do it. You're not going to follow through because they're going to say, well, fuck, it's for the other person. Or say if it's like a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they break up with you because somebody going through substance abuse, that is can be very difficult on your
Yeah.
significant other. Godspeed to the significant others out there that are helping their partners through their
Hmm.
sobriety. It's just, it comes down to being like, well, my partner gave me the ultimatum. Either I got sober or they left. So I got sober. That person may not remain sober and may have a relapse. And then that person may leave because you failed their ultimatum, you failed their test. So if you're going to get sober and your partner's pressuring you, talk to them about, listen, I want to get sober, but you pressuring me saying like, you're not going to have a drink after Thursday for the rest of your life ever. That's not how sobriety works. It's
For
like
sure.
going to rehab for an eating disorder. My family would tell me all the time, well, just eat. That's not the problem. The problem is I could physically eat. It's me wanting to eat. It's me wanting to have that control. A lot of people do those substances because it's the only form of control they have in their life. That was something that was really brought upon in rehab. It's a form of control when you
Yep.
don't feel like you have control. And the problem with alcohol and drugs, you can get out of control very quickly, very fast. So if you know anybody that you want to talk to, but get them to listen to this podcast. This is two people going through a sobriety journey in their 20s and 30s. Like
Hmm.
I know for the rest of my life, I can't do drugs. I don't want to do drugs. And Nard, you could go the rest of your life without wanting a drink for the rest of your life. Look at us as two examples of people that wanted to better our lives by taking the one single step that we could do, was to cut out alcohol, to cut out drugs, and to be better humans for it and feel better. And like Nard said, you feel better, not right
Yep.
away, but you feel so much better. You'll actually have a good night's sleep. You
Hmm.
will not feel groggy waking up. You won't need to have 6 coffees a day because you're not groggy and hungover from the night before.
Right.
But people don't understand. So you have 3 beers a night. That's 15 beers a week. Imagine what that's doing to your system. Not only is it doing to
Hmm.
your system, but doing to your wallet.
Hmm.
Alcohol is
Yep.
not cheap.
Yep.
So in my rule of thumb is if I feel like I go out to a bar and I want a drink, and if I'm not currently drinking at that moment, I buy dessert. It's the same price.
Hmm.
And yes, it's sugar, and we'll get into sugar as a drug at a different podcast. You're right, it is. It's
Please invite me to that one because I think that's sugar. Honestly, we could talk about that in the next episode, on another episode. But
Mhm.
that is even more harder to
Yes.
quit, and I think sugar is way more addicting for me in
Mhm.
my journey and experience than alcohol because sugar is just so hard and it's in
It's in
everything. That's all I'm
everything.
saying.
It's
Yeah.
in literally everything. Try keto for salt, like real keto, not lazy
Woo.
keto, real keto for 7
Mm.
days. You will literally, you won't poop. You will not go to
Yeah.
the
So
bathroom.
I was
Uh,
constipated when I did it by
yeah,
mistake.
yeah.
Hmm.
And you literally, I would have sweats. I would literally go from hot sweats to normal because my body was going through sugar. Like people would literally say, just eat some sugar. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to, because
Yeah.
I'm doing this for me. And I did. I
Hmm.
went 30 days without one drop of sugar, and I could
I'm gonna
sit here
do
and
it.
do it.
I'm gonna do
You
it.
know
30
what?
days.
30
No added
days.
sugar for me. I gotta get my fruit in though.
Yeah, fruit's fine. As
Yeah.
long as it's like a
Okay.
small bit of berries.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what? If you do it, I will do it. I can't see, but this is the thing. You're like, well, I can't do
It's
it. Like,
May.
I can't
It's
do it
May
this week.
1st.
It's May 1st. I've already
It's
had
May
sugar
1st.
today. So
Okay. Me too. I had a vanilla latte today, so I
yeah,
guess I'm
see?
out. I guess I'm out.
Okay. What if we did it June 1st? We get our month to set us
Okay.
up because like
Okay.
to do keto, guys. I know this is a different topic from sobriety,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
kind of it's not with sugar. It's expensive. It is not cheap to do keto. You have to have a lot of protein and a lot of
Hmm.
vegetables, very expensive things, and a lot of nuts. But I promise you, from June 1st to the 31st, if there's a 31st of June or June 30th.
I
No,
think so.
I think there's a third. No, there's July 31st.
Oh yeah. 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 Because I
Okay.
always have to count on my knuckles or whatever for the ones that have like like the January,
Yeah.
February, March 31st, and there's April 30th, then May 31st, then June 30th.
Yeah.
So 30 days.
I will do keto with you. And we will go through
I
the we will
I
go
will
through
do no added sugar.
yeah, no added sugar.
Keto, because keto might make bring. Well, I could do keto, but
Mhm.
I just don't want to have to go through that. I literally thought I was dying
Yep.
when I almost hit ketosis because I was tracking my calories and
Yep.
tracking how many carbs I was eating, and I was literally hitting. I wasn't doing like super low, like under 20 or whatever, but I
Mhm.
was hitting like 30
Yeah.
grams of carbs, and
Mhm.
that was because I was eating berries, spinach, and on a high carb day, it'll be because I had beans, and
Yep.
even then, I wasn't even getting enough fiber.
Nope.
Yeah,
It's
it was crazy.
it was crazy. Like for berries, for anyone who's I guess no, this is not only going to be audio. You can only have this much. You can have
Mhm.
whatever your palm is with a circle. That's all you can
Mhm.
have. I used to eat 4 strawberries a day.
I had five. Yeah, I ate five, and then a small cup of blueberries
Yep.
that got me about just under 15 grams of carbs.
Mhm.
So I still had about. I was doing under 50. I did under 50
For net
50
carbs.
grams. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For net. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that was even hard to do
So why
at
don't why
times.
don't we say not keto, low carb?
Low
I think
carb.
that's
Yeah,
a
let's do low carb.
I think
Yeah.
we can do low carb. We're gonna shake on it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we're shaking. All
We're
right, cool.
shaking. We're
Low
shaking.
carb, no added sugar for
Low,
me.
yes.
Low
There
carb,
we
no added sugar.
no low carb, no added
All right.
sugar. We're gonna do that. And I think what
All
we
right.
should do is at the end of June, let's do another podcast and talk
Mhm.
about how we feel because we're gonna feel like fucking
Exactly.
rock stars by
We
the end
are,
of
cause
June.
we are.
Because you're not gonna feel
We
so
are.
sluggish. You're not gonna be
Mhm.
like, oh, I feel like ooh.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
anyways,
Can
Nard
I
and
make? Can I
yeah,
just make before we end? I just want to make one note
yeah,
about just quitting alcohol.
yeah, of
I
course.
just want to say, and this is my last final thoughts, is that it's going to be different. Everybody's journey to sobriety is obviously going to be different. Everybody's going to have
Mhm.
different reasons. I'm no doctor. So the things that I've said in this podcast was just personal for me.
Mhm.
And I also want to just say that from just not drinking for 11 months has actually increased my life in a positive way that I've never thought I could imagine.
Mhm.
I've saved so much money. I lost over 50 pounds. My mental health in general has increased
Mhm.
dramatically. Like I can wake up with like no current anxieties yet. Like I still have my anxieties, but it's not as severe as it was when I was drinking.
Mhm.
Just all that stuff, like less brain fog, the productivity, like my creative like mindset is crazy now. Like I can just like come up with ideas so much faster, and I have so much more time in the day to just get stuff done because I'm not sitting at the bar for 2 hours drinking. And if I'm at home drinking, I'm not feeling sluggish. I had that like moment where I'm like, man, I'm a little tipsy, but I don't want to be productive. So I don't know. I just feel like in the last 11 months, I've been just I hit 100K on my YouTube, not YouTube, but on my TikTok channel.
Mhm.
I've experienced so many milestones and stuff like that just through sobriety. So I just wanted to just add those good things, even though there's some bad things, because you have the social life issues and stuff like that, and sometimes you feel a certain way during your time to sobriety. But I just wanted to throw out those good points just because I didn't mention any of those. And that's what kept me going, is the fact that I can wake up and feel great, feel like I'm ready to rock and roll, all this extra energy, and I'm saving money, and I'm putting my money towards other things other than alcohol now. I bought an engagement ring because of that, stuff like that. I went to Europe. Just all that money that I would have spent on alcohol has been just in my pocket, being able to better either my brand or just my personal life. And I don't know, it's just been great. I feel like my mindset's just different. And again, I had to eliminate alcohol to get to where I'm at. Not everybody can do it. Everybody can drink casually and nothing happens to them. But I think that I was able to increase my productivity and just my mindset without the distractions of alcohol. And that's how I just want to say that's how my journey's been. And that's why I made it to as far as I did. Because I used to, wake up feeling sluggish, stomach aches, and it's because I was drinking like every day. And limiting that, my blood pressure is better, my cholesterol level, my blood work has came in fine, my liver has been better, and my heart stuff has been good too. Like, it's just from just a couple dietary changes, and the no alcohol has definitely improved my physical and mental health. And I have no regrets of quitting alcohol for 11 months. So just want to throw that out there.
Jannard, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. Like, I
Thank
know
you.
we just met like a couple months ago, but I am so proud of where you've come. And
I
thank you so much
appreciate
for
it.
sharing your sobriety journey today. You are a fucking rock star. You are amazing. And I don't ever want you to forget it.
Appreciate
Okay.
that.
You
I
are
really
very welcome.
appreciate that, because no one never congratulate anybody for that. So it's kind of nice to hear it, you
Of
know.
course. Well, I'm so proud of you that I know that you can make it. Well, I know you'll make it to the 12 months, and you'll
Mhm.
make it to 13 and 14 and 15 and then 16 and for however long you want, because it's your journey and you get to decide where your journey goes. So I want to thank you again so much for coming on here today and sharing your story and sharing wisdom for anybody who's maybe considering wanting to get sober and doesn't really know where to start or is scared because they think they'll be social outcasts. That's not true. That is not true at all. You can do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it, but just make sure it's something that you want to do, and then you'll be able to
Exactly.
follow through. So, Jannard, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being my
Thank
first ever guest
I am
on.
honored, and thank you
Yes,
for sharing your story too.
thank you. I forget, for many years I never talked about it. It was just like I was like it was a hidden secret, but a promise I wanted to make to myself is to be more open about the experience of uh, indulging in alcohol and drugs a little too early in my life, and the damage that it has done, and the irreparable damage. Sorry, the damage
Mhm.
that cannot be fixed.
Mhm.
But share the story so that doesn't happen
Mhm.
again to the next person. So
Exactly.
I want to thank you again. Why don't you tell everybody where we can find your amazing work?
You can find me on YouTube at the Nardvillian, and I also have a personal YouTube channel that's Jannard. And if you want or curious to see any of my work outside of what I do for The Sims, you can just go to my website, and that is thenardcast.com. And from there, you can find everything else, Sim stuff, my YouTube channels, Twitter, and all that. So yeah, thenardcast.com, and or anything Nardville, just search it, and hopefully it's just all good stuff that you find when you search Nard Villain.
100%. Like I said in our first ever interview, you were the first Sims comedian that I'd
Yep.
ever seen. And I'm so fucking proud that we become friends. Also,
Yes.
mark the calendars, kids. I just confirmed it is Wednesday as our Simmer
Uh,
spotlight. That's so funny. Our
that's
third
cool.
podcast and then our first one come out in the same
Yes.
week.
That's awesome. So the podcast that I'm on comes out next Wednesday or this upcoming Wednesday? Because this is obviously going to air on the
This is
Sunday,
this
right?
is airing on Sunday. So
Okay.
our podcast would come out on, I think we decided, was it like the 9th? The 10th? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 9th. No,
The
yes.
the 10th is a
The
Wednesday.
10th is the Wednesday. The 10th,
Okay.
kids. go check out Nardvillian's podcast on the 10th. Again,
Okay.
that was not planned. That just
Mhm.
happened to be as I was looking at the posting schedule earlier today. I was like, oh, that's the podcast that's coming up next week. But Nard, it has
Cool.
been an absolute pleasure
Thanks.
having you here today. Again, thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank everyone for listening. You guys are awesome. Thank you for following me along in this new series that I
I'm
wanted to
excited for
do.
this.
I'm excited to just talk about real life, and let's bring some real life to this podcast. Like I said at the beginning, do not worry. This is not replacing Simmer Spotlights on Wednesdays or roundtables. You will still have those for very much the foreseeable future, as I've currently filmed up to November podcast. Okay,
Sheesh.
you've got Wednesday podcast till
Dang.
November. You've got time, but these will be sprinkled in throughout. And if anybody wants to come on, please message me. You want to come and talk about something real, come talk to me. I've had a lot of people reach out in the last day of wanting to share some real life knowledge with everybody. So again, I want to thank you for coming here today, and have a great rest of your day. And please go check out Nardville, and the links are going to be below for all of his amazing talented work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, have a great rest of your night. Bye.
You too.